Hey YouTube, today I'm going to be doing a quick video showing you how to diagnose and replace a faulty ignition coil pack assembly on your first generation Honda Fit. Now, a common phenomenon with many first generation Honda Fits is as the mileage begins to rack up on the vehicle, that the ignition coils begin to start wearing down and not operating as they're designed. And what that means is that during idle or when the engine's under load, that the engine will begin to misfire, which creates a shudder, which also leads to poor drivability and bad fuel economy, and in some extreme cases, a safety hazard should the engine ever stall during highway speeds. So I'm going to show you how to isolate and repair that. So as you can see here, guys, as I'm driving this Honda Fit around in stop-and-go city traffic, although I can't record this on video, I can tell you right now that it's misfiring quite badly, and just based on my camera shake here, you can sort of see how bad the misfiring actually is. The phone is sitting, or sorry, my camera is sitting on the steering column, and you can see it sort of vibrating back and forth, even though the RPMs on the tachometer aren't actually showing any noticeable drops. Now, as I accelerate, the car is really smooth and shows no signs of hesitation whatsoever. Although when I let off the gas and then coast down to sort of back to idling speeds, that you can again feel the engine sort of jolting back and forth because of a misfire. And yet what's interesting is that there's no actual check engine codes that are being thrown. Now, to remove the coil out of the Honda Fit, it's a real easy process. Every single coil pack is actually held in with a single 10mm bolt located just off to the side here. And so to remove the coil pack, we just simply use our ratchet and undo the screw. And then we're going to lift up on our coil and then just disconnect the electrical connector by squeezing the tab and pulling up on the connector. Like so. Now, with each coil pack removed from the vehicle, it's also a good idea to give it a good inspection just to make sure that there's no obvious signs of failure. Common symptoms include arcing or burn marks along the seam here because the dielectric joint begins to break down, or you see some carbon or arcing burn marks inside the connector terminal. And even occasionally you'll see cracks in the upper body or even damage to the connector pins, as well as the coil body itself. So just looking at this cylinder number 1 coil, there doesn't seem to be any obvious signs of damage. So we're going to go ahead and install our new coil and do our test. So I'm going to go ahead and install coil pack, known good coil pack, into cylinder number 1. And then I'm just going to reconnect the connector until it snaps in. And press firmly down onto the coil pack. Now, I'm not going to reinstall the screw just yet on this new coil pack because 1, it's quite snug, and 2, if the engine continues to misfire, I'm going to have to swap this out again. And for a quick test drive, chances are this is not going to actually pop out. Go ahead and start the car. So I can already hear the motor misfiring. So I know it's not cylinder 1. Now, I'm not sure how well you can hear it in the exhaust stream, but you can hear it sputtering while it's idling in the driveway. You hear that? So since it wasn't cylinder 1, we're going to go ahead and remove the known good coil pack and then replace it with the original one. And then repeat this entire process for cylinder 2, cylinders 3 and 4 until we can isolate where the engine, which coil pack is the weak one. When disconnecting these connectors, press down firmly on this tab and pull on the connector body and not ever by the wiring. Go ahead and install the known good coil pack into cylinder number 2. Press firmly until it clicks into place and start the car. So I've started the car again to test cylinder number 2. So what I've done so far is I've gone and replaced each cylinder with one known good factory Honda coil pack. And it was funny because cylinders 1, 2, and 3 exhibited no change in the intermittent misfire, but when I got to the very last cylinder, cylinder 4, down in there, when I put in the new coil pack, the misfire while AC is on or just sitting at idle, especially when the transmission is in drive, has completely gone away, indicating that coil pack number 4 was actually indeed no good. Listening to the exhaust stream, we can now tell, after replacing the faulty coil pack with a good one, that the exhaust note is nice and smooth without any spitting or sputtering. So even when the engine is under load, such as when the AC compressor is engaged like it just was, the motor still continued to purr along nice and smooth. We can now go ahead and reinstall all 4 10mm coil retaining screws that we had previously removed, making sure that you torque them down to just finger tight, which is approximately 6 to 8 foot-pounds. Ignition coil failures are a fairly common phenomenon for the first generation Honda Fit, and what makes this failure so baffling for most Fit owners is that it never actually throws a check engine light code in most circumstances, and it seems to be a fairly random phenomenon, which leads people to believe that it could either be a faulty fuel system, faulty ignition coils, or bad valve adjustments. But as you can see from my video, isolating, troubleshooting, and replacing the ignition coil is a fairly straightforward process and just takes a little bit of common sense and time. I hope you found this video useful and informative. Rate, comment, and subscribe.